Hi everyone and welcome to Clare's Poetry Circle. I'm Clare Pollard and every Monday this autumn I'm uploading a short poetry workshop for beginners with a writing exercise to help us all get through lockdown. And thank you to everyone who's spread the word. Do tell anyone else you think might enjoy it, the more the merrier. And also show your support by pressing the subscribe button if you can on YouTube. I think I'm nearly at 200 subscribers as I speak. Do feel free to join in, share your poems on Instagram or Twitter with the hashtag Clare's Poetry Circle or in the YouTube comments. And I will, if you do that, I'll try and read and comment on them all if I can. So today we're thinking about nature poetry. I think it's important to remember about English nature poetry is it grew out of the Greek tradition of the pastoral. Pastoral, by the way, as an adjective refers to the lifestyle of shepherds moving livestock around the land according to the seasons. And the word pastoral describes literature or art which depicts the life of shepherds, often in a very idealised manner. An alternative word, you might have heard, is bucolic, which is actually from the Greek meaning cowherd. So pastoral is sheep and bucolic is cows. Anyway, our nature poetry tradition comes out of this, and what that means in practice is that our landscapes are often portrayed through this kind of glow of nostalgia and idealised, and also seen as kind of set dressing really for humans, the shepherds or the cowherds who take the centre stage. Take for example the famous poem by Christopher Marlowe, which I think I'll read in full, why not? It's out of copyright, it's a stone cold classic. So this is The Passionate Shepherd to His Love. Come live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove that valleys, groves, hills and fields, woods or steepy mountain yields. And we will sit upon the rocks, seeing the shepherds feed their flocks by shallow rivers, to whose falls melodious birds sing madrigals. And I will make thee beds of roses and 1,000 fragrant posies, a cap of flowers and a kirtle embroidered all with leaves of myrtle, a gown made of the finest wool, which from our pretty lambs we pull, fair lined slippers for the cold with buckles of the purest gold, a belt of straw and ivy buds with coral clasps and amber studs. And if these pleasures may thee move, come live with me and be my love. The shepherd's swains shall dance and sing for thy delight each May morning. If these delights thy mind may move, then live with me and be my love. Gorgeous, isn't it? But it also speaks of a certain relationship with nature. It's very idealised. He anthropomorphises, humanises nature, something we've spoken about in different sessions, the birds singing, the madrigals and so on. And nature's also kind of plundered in this poem. The roses are picked, the wool's pulled off the lambs, the gold's mined, the coral snapped off the reef. Nature's there for material, it belongs to humans, it's there for human pleasure. So this is one thread of nature poetry we need to keep in mind. And there's still a lot of poems out there that just present the lyric speaker wandering around this beautiful landscape, thinking deep thoughts. And those poems I don't think are really about nature so much as nature being set dressing for humans. They come out of that kind of pastoral tradition. It's not until later, until romantic poets like John Clare, we start to get the sort of nature poetry we might think of now when we hear nature poetry. He leads to poets like Edward Thomas or Ted Hughes, who try to pay a real attention to nature itself rather than it being background. Think of John Clare's description of the evening primrose, pale as moonbeams are, or Ted Hughes describing the pike, stunned by their own grandeur over a bed of emerald silhouette of submarine delicacy and horror. Hughes often spoke of catching a poem and catching a fish, catching a pike as being a similar sort of pursuit, having to pay full attention to the fish, almost get into its thoughts in order to be able to catch it. I think Alice Oswald's one of his main inheritors amongst contemporary poets. She's great, how she captures the riveriness of rivers. The other day I was reading her description of topsoil, which I found startling. Like who even looks pays that much attention to topsoil, you know, and she describes it beautifully as a place of digestion. It sucks and chews things into smaller pieces. And she says when it's thirsty, it opens thousands of cracked lips. Great stuff. So to start today, I want you to pay attention to the natural world, real deep attention. I've been inspired. I received this absolutely beautiful little pamphlet in the post this week from the Hazel Press, a lovely small press called Leaves by Matthew Hollis. It's gorgeous. I'd really recommend it. And as it's autumn at the moment, what I'm going to ask you to do is to pause the screen and to go outside on the street or in your garden or whatever, and to find yourself a fallen leaf. If you're watching this video much later and it's spring when you're watching this, then it'll have to be something springy instead. But assuming you're watching this in the autumn, if you possibly can, go outside and find a fallen leaf. I found these two in my garden. And then I want you to really, really, really look at it. I want you to try and describe it as precisely as you can. What's its exact colour? This is a kind of goldy yellow, but you'll see it's kind of just blushing slightly around the edge. And this is the yellow's less warm, isn't it? And it almost kind of goes to tortoiseshell at the edge. Think about how do you describe its veins, its patterns, its shape? Does it remind you of anything? Does it smell of anything? Is it blemished? How does it feel between your fingers? What sound does it make when you rub it? So I want you to get that leaf, put it in front of you and kind of sketch it with words. So this is a kind of exercise in a poetic still life. If you want, you could even try and make the poem the shape of the leaf. That's another way of getting more information about the leaf into your poem, is to use the space on the page. David Mully has a wonderful set of calligrams, visual poems, that take the shape of leaf litter on the page. That's another way of catching the leafiness of leaf. Now, pause, do that. Okay, if you're back, I'm going to set my prompt for the week. Something I feel very strongly about, and that infects my work in different ways, I suppose, is the climate crisis and the current great extinction that I believe is happening, the sixth great extinction. The fact coral reefs might no longer be around by the time my children are adults. Such things concern me a lot. And there's a lot of great environmental poetry out there being written. There's the Ginkgo Prize for individual poems about the environment. And Poet Laureate Simon Lamtage recently founded the Laurel Prize for a book of eco-poetry, which was won by the wonderful Pascal Petit, I'd recommend, and Karen McCarthy-Wolf, who is also shortlisted as one of my favourite environmental poets, so they might be a place to start if you're interested. I should also shout out Poets for the Planet. They're a really great group. You can follow them on Twitter or YouTube, and they currently host they've hosted readathons, and they do regular open mics and share eco-poetry. They're good people doing the good work. Anyway, what I'd like you to do is to write a landscape poem describing one of your favourite places. So a poem of place is the exercise. So I want you to describe, it might be a stretch of coast you particularly love or you've holidayed at. Perhaps if you live in an urban area, it might just be a patch of wasteland or a corner of a park. It could be a jungle that you've spent time in, or a desert. It could be your local woods, or the walk you've been regularly doing in lockdown over the moors or something. So it's a poem of place, a place where you feel connected to nature, or in the past you felt connected to nature. And the title can just be the place name. I've got lots of poems. The titles are just place names. Your main task is to conjure this place, okay? Describe it with as much detail as you can, as much attention as you can. Remember that tip we had earlier in the course to use all the senses. Think about all the creatures and plants that are part of the ecosystem, big and small. The bugs, the weeds. Try to name as much as you can. We're poets, we collect words. I love all those interesting names of birds and bugs, and often there's lots of alternate names as well for plants, dialect names and so on. Look up the names of things if you have to. You're trying to really capture a living, breathing landscape. So that's your main task, is to capture a sense of place. But there's a catch, my evil twist. I want you to address your poem to somebody in the future, and you're trying to describe to them a landscape that has been obliterated, that no longer exists. Okay, so that's your task. Describe this landscape as though trying to evoke it for someone when it no longer exists. And on that bombshell, I look forward to reading these eco poems anyway, which I hope will act both as warning of what we could lose and a celebration of what we still, in this moment, have and can still save. And I will see you next week.